Hey everybody, welcome back to another video, a testimonial video about Secrets of Storytelling Mastermind. With me today is mastermind member and my very good friend, Tam Orlando. Hi, lovey.
Hello.
Hello, it's so good to be here with you.
Same.
So I would love for you to start out and just tell us a little bit about like what was kind of the journey of your book for you. And I know it's like a continuing journey. And why did you join Secrets of Storytelling Mastermind?
Yeah. So I started writing my book, interestingly, at your very first writing retreat,
Yes.
right before
My
COVID.
pre-COVID writing retreat.
Little did we know it was our final hurrah for a while. And it was wonderful. And from that point, I kind of started to feel into this idea of like, I'm writing a book. It was like the first time I'd ever thought, like, oh, I'm writing a book. And so you really supported me on like starting to own that and step into that author identity. And I think that that was honestly a big piece of stepping into the mastermind. Was it was two parts for me. It was one was like I wanted to make a statement like to the universe, to my creativity, to my book, like I'm taking this seriously. This is a real project that I'm invested in. And then the other piece was like the community aspect, because I really could see how so much of my book I'd written during your writing circles that you used to run every week, and in just these little chunks of time, but like it was in being in the energy of other people also writing books that really supported me personally. And so like just in being able to prioritize it, so yeah, making that like really clear like statement, like I am investing in my book, this is a real thing that I'm doing, it's important to me. Also I really wanted to I wanted to learn how to take my book to the next level, but I also loved how you really walked us through like the whole process of creating a book, that it wasn't just about like the writing skills, but like the whole entire journey. That was really supportive as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you said so many good things. So I love this part, like you just said about like taking you through the whole process of the book. So the goal of Secrets of Storytelling Mastermind is to give you every tool you need to write every book that's inside you. Right. So, and I was saying that like so much, like every writing class I've ever taken, and I've taken like a lot, and I have a graduate degree, like just in creative writing, but it's like everyone focuses just on like drafting and revision. And I teach that there's like actually a 7-stage process, and we go through all 7 stages, right? So it starts with gestation, right? And we go all the way through like how to publish your book and bring it out into the world. We talk about culmination, how to market your book and like being in the energy of that, right? So not just like staying in the drafting, but like going through all the parts of the process, even if you're not there yet, right? Like, so not everyone is like at the point of like being ready to publish, but you have the tool there for when you're ready for it.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because like I wouldn't say that like my whole identity like in my life has always been or is even now like I am a writer, right? I know some people like have that, but like for me it was just that like I'm a creative person in many different ways.
Yeah.
And I had this spark just before that retreat 2 years ago. I had this spark of like a moment where I got this like message that was like, write your book, write your stories. I was like, oh. And so for me, like a lot of this, I think, is about like, there's a book that wanted to come into the world through me. That was so clear, right? It wasn't even about like, how can I get that's why I don't think like a master's degree was the thing, or like a creative writing class. It was like, how do I get my book into the world? And I think that you did such a great job of like from all the different angles, like really supporting that process for me as a person who, like I said, I don't necessarily identify as just a writer.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. I love that. And I love what you said about like, right. It's not just like another creative writing class, like, cause you're like, that's not what I want. I want like, how do I get my book out of my brain, out of my body, like out of my soul, right? Like into someone else's hands where they could like hold it and read it. Right. So it's not just like, how do you write a good scene? I mean, we did talk about that, but also right,
yeah.
it's sort of like the whole.
And there was that piece too where I was like, I've gone through a lot of different kinds of writing classes in college and high school and whatever, and writing was always something I really loved, but I never felt like I had like anyone sort of challenge me on my writing or like
Mm.
give me anything to like take it that next step higher. Like I felt like I kind of had hit the pinnacle of like what was needed for the work that I was doing, and so I wanted to be like in a space where it was like, okay, now how do I take it higher? How do I
Mm.
challenge myself to really like step into that aspect, and still let it be very much my own creation, like my own process, my own very unique way of doing it. I think you left a
Mm.
lot of space for that as well, where you're like, this is like a frame, these are some tools, but like ultimately your book is very much your own, and there's
Mm.
not just one way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So I know I hear you saying that like, you wanted to take your writing to the next level. And I'm curious, like, was there a particular element of the mastermind that was the most helpful in sort of doing that, right? Or most impactful in terms of taking your writing to that next level?
Yeah, I think for me it was probably the one-on-one component
Yeah.
was just so key to have someone kind of close reading, you know, a large chunk of my work every month. It was also another like checkpoint of accountability where it
Yeah.
was like, okay, I have to get this done. It was usually like midnight on the day that I had to submit it, and I'm like texting, it's coming. But that really supported me in moving it forward as well. And then each time that I was getting that feedback, I could start to see my own writing through like a slightly kind of refined lens. So I was then able to integrate the feedback. And the next round, it was like taking it deeper again. So it really felt like an important piece.
Yeah. I love that so much. And that was part of my goal, right? In the one-on-one work, what you said about like, then like you being able to look at your work through that more refined lens is like, I've really found that too, when I have worked with writers that I admire, like on that one-on-one level, it's sort of like, you start to like, I would start to see my work like through their eyes of like, what would Rachel say about this for me? And like, and for you to say like, oh, like, what would Brooke say about this? Or like being able to just like, right, like have that view of like being able to see it differently. I know one of the other members of the mastermind said that pretty soon into the mastermind, she said, I'm reading differently, right? Like I read books now and I can like, I look at like, well, what was the author trying to do here? Like, what are they trying to tell me? Like she wasn't just sort of like reading them as a reader, but starting to read them as a writer. And starting to do that with your own work is like that next layer too.
Yeah. Well, even just the past couple of weeks, I've like found myself getting back into reading, which is something that I've always loved and just deprioritized in my life for such a long time. And just really enjoying that and being like, oh, this is also informing my writing, like just
Yes.
seeing how it's all connected. I think that you really shine a light on that in a really beautiful way. So that, yeah, you're noticing it's like a different awareness as you're moving through the piece.
Yeah, I love that. So you had said to me recently that the only reason you were able to write your book kind of at the level that you were working on it, and not just maybe like here and there or like sporadically, but that the reason you were able to work on it so consistently was because of the energetic container of the mastermind. So can you say more about that piece and sort of like how that container sort of like held space for you to dive in deeper?
Yeah, absolutely. Just knowing that you're not journeying alone for me is so like it's like very potent. It's very potent. And so like every time that, every week on the group calls, like just seeing these other people who are like putting this love and energy into their own creation, it was like it gave me permission to do the same, I think, in a lot of ways. And then, we have this little chat going on where we're kind of celebrating each other's wins. And so it feels good to be able to like share in that and hold each other high. And I love the container that you hold because it's so, it's just such a positive energy. And it's all about like gently moving forward and celebration and not competition, right? But actually just like this idea that like we all rise higher, we all have our own book to write. There's nothing like, so it's all about support and mutual, encouragement. And so, yeah, I just love being a part of those. And I think again, with the energetics, like your awareness of the energetics of just in general in life, but like how they relate to writing a book, I think is was such a powerful component. And then, yeah, I guess circling back to kind of like my initial thought of like, I'm choosing to invest my time, energy, resource, money into like, this is a priority for me. And I'm learning more and more just with how I relate to money, that like money just wants to move where like I want, like it really wants to move in alignment with my desire and my creativity and my flow. And so when I'm really choosing that, I'm more and more in alignment, I think, in general, and more keeps like everything keeps flowing from there. So yeah, I feel like it was a really important step.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I love you speaking to the financial investment piece, because it's funny because I just spoke with my coach earlier today. And one thing she said to me was this piece about like, we need to stop waiting to be ready to like do the thing that we want to do, or like the next thing, right? We need to stop waiting to feel ready, because it's just like, she's like, we're never going to be ready. It's just sort of like, it's like making the choice, right? And it's flowing from the desire instead of sort of like waiting to feel like I have a lot of people who are like, well, I have to wait until I get to this point in my business, or until I get this job, until like everything's sort of set. And I always come back to like, when I was like 25 years old, I decided to invest $30,000 in my master's degree, and it was crazy. Like it didn't make any sense for us to be taking on more student debt at that point in our lives. And also I was just like, this is the path for my book, right? Like, I'm not saying everyone should get a master's degree, because you should come do Secrets of Storytelling Mastermind. It's a lot more affordable. And also like, I just knew that for me, like that was the pathway. It's like, I wanted to be an author for my whole career, and I wanted to have like a really solid foundation. And again, I actually don't recommend master's degrees for most people that want to be writers, even if you want to be an author. For me, that I just knew that was the right path. And like, to make that investment with no clear idea of like how the return was going to come back, like didn't make any sense. And now like, this is what I do for a living. And like, I couldn't have imagined this like 10 years ago, right? When I was kind of making that leap. So,
Yeah, that's, I mean, everything that I'm playing with right now in my life is like similarly, it's like, no, you choose first, and then you understand like the why and the how and all of that after. I think it's like, been thinking about it almost like these like headings on a compass, and like if your desire is like create a book, and then this is calling to you, it's not like, oh, but I don't know like why I want to create a book. I mean, I didn't, and I still like, it's still like a little glimmer of an idea of like why, but it's like, it's moving me in a really powerful direction. And so it was only in like choosing and stepping in that it continued to unlock like the next steps and the next steps. It's like sometimes you don't see all the way down the road to like, where it's taking you, but
Yes, I love that. All right. Anything else you want to share with people that are like, should I do it? Should I not do it? Right? What would you say? Is there anything else you want to share about the mastermind kind of more generally? And then anything you would say to people who are considering joining?
Yeah. Again, I think for me, it's so much of it is like about like this beautiful energy of the space that you held. And like, I think what was so unique about the way that you held the container, and also the way that you kind of guided us through, was just with just so much awareness that like when we're writing, it's such a vulnerable like practice. Yeah. And it takes us to very vulnerable places, and it can be really terrifying sometimes, right? So like to have someone who can kind of guide you through that with the tenderness, with the awareness of like, of what it takes to hold that and move those emotions through and move that energy through and be with it, and to kind of you grow in the process, right? The growth is like growth is a whole complicated mess of emotions and things, right, as you go. So I can't really imagine doing that work with someone who hadn't been like just so clearly grounded in that awareness, and as you were and are. So yeah, I would say anyone out there who is looking to write a book, if it's like calling your name, because I think that's how books do it. Like I think any creative, they're like they come in and they're like, will you write me please? If you're getting that message, I think this is a really great place to or finish or
Yes.
get some momentum, or anywhere you are on that journey. This is a really beautiful container.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. It's like, it's a great place to start or finish. And there's this piece, right? Like, and I love what you said, because that's totally how I talk about it too, right? Of like, the book comes through and it's like, will you write me, please? And I heard Brene Brown say this thing one time, which I quote all the time, where she says, unused creativity is not benign. And so when the book comes in and it wants your attention, it wants you to write it, and then you put it off and put it off and put it off for different reasons, and life is happening and you're not tending to it, right? Like it turns inward in sort of like, yeah, like I won't say like a malicious way, but like there can be like negative effects, right? Like when you don't like use that creativity that wants to come through you, like all that stagnant energy can like start to fester, and like it looks different ways, but it just sort of like creates a lot of misery. So it's like, use your creativity, write the book that's like tapping you on the shoulder. Yeah, don't let resistance win.
Yeah, absolutely. It just wants to flow. It just wants to flow. Let it flow. And this is a beautiful way to let it flow, with like gentle kind of direction and clarity of like what all the possibilities of where it's headed.
Yes, I love that. All right. So if you're watching this video, go to the link below, and either, depending on where we are, you can either get on the wait list to join Secrets of Storytelling Mastermind, or see if enrollment is currently open. So we would love to have you on the magical journey. So thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right. Take care, everybody.